Sarah in Tech. I'm Sarah, and our guest today is Dave Miller. Dave, what's your job title?
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me. My job title is Director of Engineering at Infuse.io.
And what do you do other than direct engineering?
Well, Infuse is kind of a boutique consulting agency, I'd say, for big data software. And so outside of directing, which has been a lot of recruiting and kind of helping kind of growth focused at the moment. But outside of directing, I bill as a developer most often. I build as an architect. And I think even a TPM. But yeah, a variety of things.
Technical project manager?
Yes, technical project manager. Okay. Sorry, acronyms. Yeah.
People might be confused because almost everyone that's been on here so far has been a data scientist. So you're our kind of like combo breaker.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
We're actually all of tech, not just data science.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm focused in big data software at the moment, for sure.
So with all of that experience and the cool stuff you're doing, I know we've had other conversations about some of your background that I always find really fascinating because you play a musical instrument and were even in a band and you've had all these wild adventures and somehow you ended up in technology again.
Yeah. It's kind of a non-traditional history for sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. I've played in a variety of bands over the years. Yeah, everything from I was going to say terrible punk bands, but all of my bands have been somewhat terrible depending on who you talk to. But yeah, country, pop, new wave, synth, all of the things.
What do you normally play?
I'd say my guitar is probably my go-to, although lately I just got a new cool MIDI controller that I've been trying to, I don't know if produce is the right word, but put together beats that I can play guitar on top of. But I've been slacking. All this director stuff gets in the way of...
You mean they expect you to actually work?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. You're necessary to business.
Yeah. Yep. I try to bring value where I can.
So can you kind of give us a little walkthrough of did you get a college degree and how did you go from that to eventually becoming what you are now, the director of engineering?
Yeah, so I do have a bachelor's of science in computer engineering, but I was a non-traditional student, so I came back and that's from University of Idaho, if I didn't say that. Go Vandals. But
go Vandals, yeah.
But I came back in 2008. I was living in New Jersey at the time, of all places, and decided it was time to pivot. We'll put it that way.
What were you doing in New Jersey?
That's a good question.
How did you end up in New Jersey? Were you born in New Jersey?
No. It's like a never-ending quest to hang out with Bruce Springsteen.
Did you ever actually hang out with Bruce Springsteen?
Actually, I didn't even mean to go there, but I'm glad you asked. I have sat next to Bruce Springsteen at a bar called the Stone Pony. And it wasn't like I really hung out with him, but in my eyes, I was hanging out with him, but he didn't know I was there. I was just kind of like,
I'm next to Bruce Springsteen, guys, yeah. Look at me.
Who's the boss now? Yeah.
So was that like a bucket item you check?
Yeah, that was one check. That was pretty awesome because anyway, yeah. But what was I doing in Jersey? I was, I moved out there because of a promotion for a job that involved selling skateboards in the mall and shoes mostly shoes. I worked in the mall.
To go with your bands? that you were in as well.
Kind of. Yeah. That's how it kind of started. Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like that's a lot of personality and everything. Like, you're pursuing your love of music, selling skateboards and shoes. And, like, all of us, I don't know, me, I've never, like, just gone, like, and done something crazy that I love. Like, I'm not going to go start selling art on campus. That would be a really scary for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, I kind of admire that about you, actually, that you went and did that.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think back, like how everything happens and why, but, yeah, I mean, I went to high school in Moscow, Idaho. Ooh. So northern Idaho. Yeah, I went to University of Idaho right out of high school. So I think for me, part of it was weird just not leaving the town I went to high school in and trying to go to school. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Like at the time, I thought maybe I'll study psychology or sociology or something, you know? And but really, I was just more into being social and, you know, being playing music with people and stuff. So yeah, from there I went all over the place. Portland, back to Moscow, then to Seattle, then to New York, then to New Jersey. And then I was like, what am I doing in a mall in New Jersey? Like maybe I should reevaluate. And that's how I ended back in Idaho and in tech.
Do you have like a cool adventure you'd be willing to share from that period of your life? Or?
A cool adventure?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so many cool adventures from like a couple of the bands I've been in. Went on like West Coast tours, you know, and that's always an adventure, being in a van, you know, with a van full of smelly guys like driving around with no money. It's a recipe for disaster. In a good way.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I'm like specific adventures though. Yeah, so many.
It was just like all one giant merging adventure. It was like nonstop. It was just one conglomeration, the experience.
Yeah, totally. Like it just popped into my head, I think, because I finally got my hands on a digital copy of I think like the second or third band I was actually in, believe it or not, was a country band called Buck Dagger and a Handful of Honest Men. And my friend Dustin was moving and found a CD from that era in a box. And so he sent me a copy and I finally got my hands on it, and I've been so pumped about it. But I mean, that was an adventure in itself. I lived in Portland, played mostly drums in a country band. We'd dress up like full cowboy, even though we were like kind of dirty punk rock kids, you know, and we'd put full gear, you know, like pearl snap shirts, bolo ties, hats, boots, the whole 9 yards. And
I just like can't picture you being country, but like you're from Idaho, so it's not.
I mean, yeah, and you know, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm not like a super pop country guy. This was like what I would consider legit country. Ooh. This was like, we covered a couple like Johnny Cash and like original Hank Williams songs. We covered Jolene by Dolly Parton. That is a tasty jam.
That is like a very classic. Even Miley Cyrus has done that one, I'm pretty sure.
Oh yeah, totally. The White Stripes covered it, and I think around that time, I'd like to think the White Stripes heard our version and covered. They might have done it first, actually. Anyway.
Well, that is so very cool.
That was a cool adventure. Yeah, I was just thinking we had a Buckaroo party every year, and so we hosted a party so people would watch us play probably, and everyone dressed up like cowboys, and it was fun.
It sounds like
that was a good
time.
Adventure.
Yeah. So you just up and decided you're in New Jersey, you're going to come back to Idaho, and you're going to be the director of engineering.
It was not quite that focused. Like I don't think I ever, even like a year ago, I don't know that I would have told you I'd be the director of engineering. But yeah, I went back to school and I was pretty set on electrical engineering. Mm-hmm. And it took a couple of semesters and like one computer science course for me to realize that I really wanted to do software. And writing code to me was infinitely more enjoyable than like, pencil circuit theory on paper. I could, type in some code and a hello world, for example, and like get immediate feedback and be, oh, I made something and it did a thing on the screen, and it was way more exciting than, circuit theory. And yeah, so I shifted. I ended up with computer engineering, if I didn't already say that, and which is kind of like a mashup, EE and CS. Yep. Did I answer your question?
You did. Okay. I was just like, woke up one morning and decided to be director of engineering, basically.
Yeah. So it started with software,
like between the last year. But I mean, prior to that point, as far as like my viewpoint, like I've always heard about how great of a programmer you are, how great it is to like pair a program with you. And so you were really good and really passionate about programming. Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite language? Do you have a favorite like technology stack?
I think that might be to a fault. I wouldn't say I have a favorite language. I like all of the languages.
Oh, that's like, so beautiful.
I know, right? It's so cheap. Yeah. If I had to pick one, this is another like cliche answer, but I'd probably say that whatever, it depends on the task at hand. What's the best language for whatever it is you're doing? Mm-hmm. Like lately, and I never thought I'd say this, but I've been kind of loving Java, which is like, I don't think you'll hear any software engineers say that, but it's just, it's come a long way since I originally started hating it. And
and now you don't hate it at all.
Yeah. If I had to if I had to choose one language to do it all, I'd probably pick something like Rust or I did some work with Go recently that was like super pleasant. I enjoyed that language quite a bit. I started my first job out of college was with C++, and I loved that, and I've enjoyed my time with Python. But it really depends.
Yeah. All right. So what's something that you would say that's in your life that brings you a lot of joy?
Ooh, joy.
Building off of the programming question, like,
yeah,
is it programming?
Yeah. So if we're specific to programming, I would say I feel intense joy when I make a commit to GitHub, for example, and I see like it'll tell you like how many lines of code you removed. I don't know if it's lines or just changes, but you've got like a red for how much was removed and like a green section with a number for like how much code you added. And I get tremendous joy from like 10, for example, like 2,000 lines of code removed and like 10 lines of code added. I love deleting stuff these days. Yeah.
Making it more simple and easy to understand.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's amazing how bloated stuff can get. When I say stuff, I mean software projects. Just so many unnecessary lines everywhere, and then you have a project change hands a few times, and the people that are new to the project have no idea why this function exists, and just leave it there, and it.
And they're like too afraid because
snowballs.
If I remove it stops working, and I don't even know where it's being used. I already did a Control F and can't find it, and just gonna leave it. Not gonna ask any questions. And you're the person that goes through and fixes those awful things that the rest of us do.
Yeah, I guess I'm just willing to deal with the pain if I break something. It's like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, I guess that depends, right? If this line of code I commit is going to cause a car to go off the road and kill someone, okay, maybe I'll put some tests around this, You
guys are working on autonomous driving and you didn't tell me?
No. No, that was a former life. That was my first job out of college, by the way. Yeah.
You worked for Tesla or someone else?
No. I agreed. this is part of my problem, Sarah. I tend to say yes to like the most ridiculous opportunities, like
Like coming onto a podcast?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Like
this
right
isn't
now?
ridiculous though. This is awesome. But like, yeah, like right out of school, an acquaintance, but who became a friend, Josh Hartung, approached me and he's like, "Hey, John Lamb said you were in some of his classes, and I've been working with him on some like sensor drivers for like radar and LiDAR, and we've got this idea for a company like you, and it's stuff for self-driving cars. Like, what do you want to come work for us for no money?" And I was like, "Yeah, sign me up." Like, that's not a crazy idea at all. Like, let's make a self-driving car startup in Moscow, Idaho. That's totally going to succeed, And it kind of did. It was amazing. Anyway, yeah. End of rant. Side story on self-driving
That's really
car.
cool. You're like the second person from Boise, I think, that has worked on autonomous driving. Josh Johnson also did it, and he did like some space rover stuff too.
Oh yeah, that's a familiar name. Is he at Count?
He
Okay,
is.
I've seen some posts on LinkedIn, and I was like, that's cool. I didn't know that.
He's like telling me about the South Pole of the moon the other day. It's just like in passing and talking about the rovers he worked on it. It's like there's water there, and looked it up. I was like, there might actually be water on the moon. Things I learned in a daily course of work, but yeah.
That's awesome.
So anyway, self-driving car, water on the moon.
Mm-hmm.
But that's very awesome. Did you get involved in any AI, or was it like basically a rules engine?
So our product was, we had a couple products, but I think the primary focus was, like an R&D software platform for developers. So it was kind of like, a host of sensor datas for a variety of kind of, at the time, what a lot of, R&D shops were using for sensors. So there was just a bunch of different radars and LiDARs and just a suite of sensors we had written drivers for, right? And that came out of some work with a partner, Autonomous Stuff, that was a sensor distributor.
Mm-hmm.
And so like R&D at, for example, somewhere like Toyota would go and they just wanted to buy one sensor, and they'd go to Autonomous Stuff and say, "Hey, we want this radar sensor." They'd buy it, and then they'd realize, oh, like this is a new thing that doesn't have like a driver. There's like no way to get the data off of this thing unless we make that. And so that's where we came in. We started writing sensors, and then a layer above that was like pulling data from the sensors and like bringing it onto a common bus, because you probably have 3 or 4 computers on the screen, machines, with sensors connected. So how do you bring all that data into one place? And that was kind of like the middleware, like the pub sub layer. And then from that, we started adding tools, and the framework, which became the product, because the layer above that would be like decision-making process, and then like actuation, like, so you get a bunch of sensor data. What?
Data.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. You pull in the data, right? You make some decisions, and then you control the vehicle. Like, easy. Self-driving cars. Boom. Done. Ship it. But yeah, so that was a product, basically like a framework to do that stuff, and a suite of sensor drivers to kind of enable it at the base. And what was the question?
I'm interested in self-driving cars. Like, there's a
It was
lot of
awesome.
conversations around it now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people kind of frustrated because Tesla keeps saying, well, next year it's fully autonomous, and just a lot of conversations in that space, because we keep having the distance to fully autonomous, but even if you keep having it, there's still going to be that little bit left over.
Oh, it's such a challenging problem to solve that, like, knowing, it's just funny, like thinking back of like how excited and confident we were about it even back then, which is like not a decade ago, but like 7 years ago that we were doing this. And, it's come leaps and bounds from where it was, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And they're doing cool things with simulations so that you can basically, you can create any situation that a car might face programmatically and run your, quote unquote car through the simulation 1 million times an hour and just see how it behaves if you tweak different inputs or like the environment in any different. You're familiar with all that stuff, I'm sure.
Just tiny bit.
And so it's like fascinating and awesome, but yeah, like you can imagine even when the technology is like rock solid, then you've got a completely separate problem of, how do we convince the public? Like, how do we convince them this is safe? It's like nuclear energy, right? It's probably the solution to all of our problems for sustainability. But like, when you say nuclear energy, people laugh and think atomic bombs and everyone's going to die, It's like, okay, well, then that might be a deal breaker for nuclear. I don't know.
I mean, I actually worked in nuclear energy.
Yeah.
It's pretty viable, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's also terrifying because if you make a mistake, it's not just a couple people or just the plant.
Yeah.
And it isn't just right now and we can clean up the explosion. It's like you can't go there for hundreds of years and because of radiations, and that's why people are scared. And a lot of the other industries have an entire marketing department, and nuclear has just been so focused on the science of it, they don't have a marketing department. They're so focused on spending millions of dollars to build the next nuclear plant, whereas fossil fuels and coal and stuff like that have an entire marketing department to keep them relevant, to keep the public positive around them, or as much as you can. And nuke doesn't have that.
Yeah.
As much anyway, as far as I've seen.
I think Bill Gates' nuclear energy's marketing department, because he did a documentary and, that, I guess, due to recent events, that's probably a bummer for nuclear energy because Bill Gates and
Melinda. But then there's other, let's not go down there because I've already had someone be like, apparently a bunch of girls complained about Bill.
Oh, yeah.
In the office. That's never a good thing. But I mean, anyway. So let's just stick to tech.
Yeah.
Because that's a deep bunny hole that I have a lot of opinions on.
Yeah, I didn't intend to open that one up. I didn't plan on it. It's good though.
So what's something that kind of keeps you up at night that you worry about, whether it's like technological, like what is this big technological thing on the horizon that you see coming that you're like, I wonder if we'll overcome that, or you're just like absolutely sure?
I mean, we could talk a lot about, fear. I think that all that roots to just like the unknown, right? We could get real deep on that. But I think like, honestly, like when I work with large enterprise companies and I see the state of their software, I'm just like blown away. Like it's still a hard sell to convince executives, let's say, that you should pair program, or because it's expensive, obviously, or you should have automated testing, or like, okay, that's great. You have a couple unit tests, but have you thought about maybe building up a regression harness or like using generative testing? Like huge enterprise companies are like just waking up to like, oh, maybe we should have tests around our code so that when our developers make a change, it doesn't like, the dumpster doesn't explode, or whatever.
You mean as soon as you push a change to get, everyone just doesn't say, well, that looks good. Like there should actually be a QA process around it.
Yeah. QA, like, QA is great and like data analysis is great, but like like testing as code is like more important to me than the actual implementation is like proof that it works, right? Like we can easily think of like mathematical proofs. We can prove that this chunk of code does exactly what we want it to do. But a lot of people don't. So that's scary.
They just push those changes. Let's put them into production. Let's
go.
Yeah. No one needs to check this model or this pipeline. It's it's good. Let's just run.
Yeah. Like I just checked in this awesome, I mean, this is a bad example, and I'm not speaking for, I'm just like saying like, oh, I just put up this commit for a web application, and I manually went and clicked this button and it did what it said it was going to do, and we're good. Like, right. Like, yeah. A lot of potential for human error still. That's not a huge fear. It's just something I think about.
I mean, I had to work in human machine interface, and so I definitely have a very quantifiable understanding of human failures and like the rate at which they happen, and the fact that we are fallible, or we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is something that keeps you motivated?
Motivation for me is, for me, like a routine. Like I'm like a very habitual person. I like have to stick to my routine, and that involves a lot of lists and looking at the list and waking up, maybe doing some stuff in the morning, whatever that is. It should be more exercise, but it hasn't been lately.
Everyone's been calling it the COVID-15 instead of the freshman.
Yeah. And I've actually, like, I don't know when the last time we hung out was, but I think I've lost a significant amount of weight during COVID. You're like, it doesn't look like it.
I'm sorry, Dave. I wasn't like taking super close notice of your like physical appearance. But I believe you that you have lost weight, and congratulations.
Yeah. Where was that comment? Have you been working out?
So what keeps you motivated?
Motivated. Oh yeah, that question.
You're like, I need to be motivated to work out more.
Yeah. I mean, I think just like, to put it super generically, like just growth, and learning new things, which those two things are very similar, but like looking at what I just do. Like for me, it's like motivation is like finding something I like to do, which I've had good luck with, and then just doing it over and over and over, and like not getting sick of it, and doing a better job the next time, and reflecting on what went wrong. Yeah.
And those are all really good things, learning to stay motivated and loving what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had any like big mentors in your life, and who do you consider a mentor, or who do you look up to?
Yeah, I feel like I've admired a lot of people from a distance, and I'm like kind of an introvert, definitely like 100% an introvert, and so,
which is impressive that you were in a band and you opened like stores in the mall and all of that, and you consider yourself an introvert. That's so.
Yeah, like the idea of, my initial reaction to, hey Dave, you want to come be on my podcast and like talk about yourself is like, absolutely not.
Well, I'm so thankful you decided to ignore that part and come anyway.
But yeah, like you got, for me, it's important to operate outside of my comfort zone sometimes. And, I couldn't, like, if we talk about music, like my bandmates, if you ask them, they probably hated playing music with me, because like I couldn't go on stage unless I had a few drinks, because that's how I managed back then to like do it, like otherwise how in the world am I going to like play an instrument in front of a bunch of people, or 5 people, however many people came to our show. Right. So yeah.
So who do you see as a mentor? You just see mentors, a bunch of people like from afar over there.
Well,
like,
sorry, yeah.
Is it like Bill Clinton, or is it? Who do you?
Probably not Bill.
Is it the guy who built the Keras package? That's mine. Maybe a little bit.
Honestly, like direct, when we talk about like specifically mentorship, like I'm going to call out my partner, Holly, and my mom and my dad.
Aww.
Because and like my best friend, Ethan, like they're all awesome people that I talk to. But they've never led me astray, you know, even if I fought what they were suggesting, you know, it's like, they've always been right. And so that's a good mentor, you know, maybe, you know, they make suggestions, they don't push you one way or the other, but also they have your best interests in mind. So I think they all qualify for they meet those requirements. But I've had a bunch of friends that like, I don't know that they knew that they were a passive mentor, but I always looked up to them, so, and kind of admired how they approached the world.
What would you, or how would you define success?
Ooh, I kind of touched on that. To me, success success is going to sleep at night, like every day wishing you had more hours in the day. Like if you've got to that point, that's a good measure of success, right? Like, and so, you know, I think everyone probably says happiness, and that's to me a good metric of happiness as well, right? Like, finding something you love to do. Well, okay, here's success is failure, right?
I mean,
or like
in order to get there, you fail a bunch of times. I mean, no one's just instantly like.
Well, and where is there? Like, are you ever perfect? Probably not. You're just like a different, like a.
However you it's a journey.
It's like slightly less of a failure each day. You know, you just keep banging your head against the wall and get better at.
I always love the little like Venn diagram where it's like an intersection of like health and like a job and doing what you love, kind of making money, and like it keeps you healthy. And like the intersection of those three is like success, but where you define that for yourself is so different for each person.
Totally. Yeah. Just, yeah, I mean, a lot of people like link that directly to their job, and like, I feel super lucky that I love what I do, but it's, yeah, but I mean, I have a lot of things that I do that I love that aren't like, that I don't get paid for, like the music. Good luck making money playing music. But it's hard. It's, you know, it's a long way to the top, as they say, or whatever.
Very few who play music for a profit, but those that do make a significant amount. I don't think I could ever play a musical instrument or sing. So I like totally admire anyone that can even like get up on stage and do that in front of people. Major props to you.
Thanks. Yeah. I can proudly say that I, at one point in my career, was making literally hundreds of dollars a year playing music.
Wow. Whole 3 digits. But if it makes you happy and you have a bunch of fun life stories from it.
Oh yeah,
I mean, everyone
I wouldn't
needs
do anything
that.
different. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like I rolled around the United States for a while, but not as cool as you. So.
Whatever.
I just drove around for the fun of it. I didn't even play in a band. I was just hanging out with one of my girlfriends, driving everywhere. So.
Well, that sounds better than like a van full of like sweaty dudes.
Girls do tend to shower more often. It is a fact. But so being like a little bit more introspective, what is a piece of advice that you would tell your grandkids, like from everything that you've experienced in your whole life? Like what is something that if you could tell them one thing and they would absolutely listen to you, you would tell them?
Ooh, that's a great question. So grandkids.
You haven't thought that far ahead. It's a little bit away.
Yeah. Well, you know, like when I think about being, I think for grandkids, I'd want, again, it's cheesy to say like, oh, just do what makes you happy. But I think it's important to find something that makes you happy and that you enjoy doing on a daily basis, even when you're young, and just keep doing it. And if you want, it's all about repetition. Like, think about when you're a teenager, you've got like I think there's truth to that statement, right? If you can dream it, you can be it, or whatever it is. Like you can, it's like if anyone did any one thing for like 30 years, they're going to master that thing or like make something relevant doing that thing, whatever it is. If they're building something or like learning something, if you spend enough time doing it, you're going to have some success. So I don't know.
The sooner you figure out the thing that you love and are able to hone that skill, the better, maybe?
Yeah. Like figure out how you learn. And maybe that's like academically, maybe not. Like, that's an important thing to figure out, because once you have that sort of dialed in, you can use that knowledge to then like focus on something. Maybe what you love to do is learn, and you just have a lifelong learning session. That's awesome. I mean, I guess we all kind of do. But
I mean, I think the day you stop learning is the day you die, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't realize it, I hope you learn something new each day.
Yep. I'm learning how to podcast right now. That's cool.
I am too. This is only my third time.
You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. So what is a big regret in your life?
Ooh, a big...
Just hitting all the hard questions.
Yeah, a big regret. I think... I don't, no regrets, right? But I think like, I often wonder like, what would have happened if I had like done the traditional, like, what if I had done computer science like right after high school? That would have been awesome. But then I'm like, well, then I would have missed like all the cool stuff we've been talking about, right? Like with the sweaty dudes. And so, I don't know. There was like a period of time in my 20s and early 30s where like I didn't call my mom enough, like, or ever. Now I talk to her at least once a week. So I regret not, and I think I hope that's common. I think it's common.
I call my dad every day.
Yeah.
I might be a little weird, but
I'm like, I shouldn't have been such a like weird, self-centered jerk when in my 20s, but I think that's just that's just a thing that like, humans do in their 20s. But
I've noticed, at least in myself and in quite a few other people, like in your 20s, you're just kind of angry. I don't know why. Not you, but like, I've seen a lot of people, and I know from myself in my 20s, I was just a little bit more angry than I should have been, and I should have just tried to be a little bit more zen.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. 20-aughts have a lot of weight on their shoulders. It's like, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with my life and like be an adult and be responsible or not, like.
I mean, usually people by their mid-30s, I guess, have something figured out or not. So what is something that you see as like a roadblock to technology that you hope gets solved within the next 5 years in your specific area?
Ooh.
Or is that just too weird of a question?
I think we really need to figure out like quantum mechanics as it relates to space travel. I'm just kidding.
I mean, that sounds like a really big problem. Like, I know we just created the first like quantum chip. I was just like, cool. I know a little bit about quantum. I took a nuclear physics class. Like, that's about all you got out of me.
Yeah. Like, and I think we touched on this earlier, but I think I can speak from a context of like the software industry. Like, people need to figure out how to write tests. Just do better with tests. That's okay.
Just do better.
Yeah, just
try to be better than you currently are. That's all you guys need to do.
I guess that's not industry specific. Yeah, just people, listeners out there, just do better, okay?
I mean, if I had to pick something that I'd like ask everyone to be, it's just be kinder and more understanding.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's just like everyone makes mistakes. Just breathe in and breathe out and like try to let everything go and not get too upset because there's a lot.
That's an interesting thing in our industry, what we do just in tech, right? Like everyone is so afraid of like communicating their thoughts because they don't want people to think they don't know something. And the reality is like we're all learning, like this is all new technology. Like we're blazing the trail, like just speak your mind. And like, that's how you make a better product or like algorithm or whatever you're building. If like you know, come together and talk about it instead of like, you know, the, what's the buzz term? What am I trying to think of? For some reason I keep thinking FOMO, but it's not fear of missing out. It's, imposter syndrome. That's what I was going. Yeah.
That's like a really commonplace. I feel like almost every techie, if I get to know them outside of work, when they think they can be comfortable, that's like the first thing they say. They're like, I feel like I have imposter syndrome. Like, I feel like I have imposter syndrome. I mean that, and I've written like a ton of papers and like, I know some things, I don't know everything. And, but yeah, almost every techie, give them a drink and try to get down to like brass tacks. It's one of the first things they admit to. It's kind of unusual.
Yeah. There are so many like software people, for example. If you look at like a software job posting, it's like, you know, must have significant experience or 5 or 7 years or whatever. And like, and then there's just a laundry list of like 20 different random buzzwords. And yeah, I think that could be intimidating, but
my favorite is, well, two favorite things is when they say you need to have more experience than the product has been around. This is just like, all right, that's totally possible. And then my other favorite meme is when they mix Pokemon names in with data science, like packages or techniques. And they ask the recruiter to figure out which is the Pokemon and which is the data science technique. And sometimes people can't differentiate the two. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah,
I happen to know most Pokemon and fair, and I think I would pass that test. And I am by no means a data scientist.
But you've definitely hung around a bunch of us, so I think we'll accept you. It's okay.
Yep. Linear regression, is that a thing?
Maybe just a little bit. I mean, but regression and all that stuff in general, yeah. So where do you see the industry going? Do you think like AI is going to replace programmers? Because I hear that theory a lot.
I hope so.
What? Like, you hope so?
I mean, yeah, like, you know, I look at some of the code I wrote last week and I'm like, oh, that is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, what was I thinking? But we talked about human error, and, you know, if you have a guy sitting at a desk, you know, drinking a Mountain Dew or whatever, you know, us programmers do
all day at a computer like, with caffeine.
Yeah. Like, you know, you're bound to make mistakes but if you can build a system that like generates software based on some inputs, like, and produces the expected outputs, like, you know, why do you need a dude sitting at a desk or a human at a desk? Like, I don't know.
Did you see that like new thing? Maybe it's not so new. I think it might be a year or two old now, where you just like type plain text of like, I would like a website. It needs to be pink and like this stuff. Yeah. And then it just makes the website.
Yeah.
And you just give it plain text. And I'm just like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a perfect balance between, you know, like I'm using, if I think of an IDE, let's say IntelliJ, right? Or Visual Studio Code. And like, you know, there's so much suggestion. There's so many things it does for me nowadays where like when I first started, I would have loved to have had, you know, just like generates code and it lets you focus. And instead of like all this boilerplate lines of code you have to keep track of, it'll do that for you. And then you can focus on like the actual problem you're trying to solve. And even that stuff, like to me, I see AI, automation, all of that just enabling us to focus on quantum mechanics as it relates to space travel.
So who do you think will program the programmers? That's the real question here.
Yeah. Maybe we should start a new religion. You got to have like the robot god. I don't know.
I mean, it's just always a sticky thing to bring this up. So
religion? Yeah. We don't have to talk about
okay. So do you have any closing thoughts other than that you want quantum computing on a spaceship that you can pilot yourself?
Ooh, that sounds terrifying. I didn't know I had to pilot. We got to have like some AI to do the driving.
Well, I mean, Jeff Bezos apparently is going to be on his spaceship, and it's supposed to be like commercially viable to go to space now. Probably like a couple million or whatever, but
this is like what
add in some like quantum computing, go down exponentially, only be like a couple $100.
Yeah, billionaire. Is this what billionaire midlife crises look like? I don't know.
It's like, my wife left me. Time to go to space.
Yeah. There's nothing for me here.
I'm just going to leave the planet. I've beaten everything that there is to beat here. The economic system and have whatever I want. It's great.
What were we talking about?
Well, like, do you have any like closing or parting thoughts maybe?
No. Go Vandals.
Go Vandals. I mean, I'm a Vandal. Go Vandals.
I thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. I work for a company called Infuse.io. So shameless plug, like we're always hiring. So if you or anybody listening knows anyone that writes code and wants to do so and work for me because I'm awesome or not, let me know.
I mean, I will testify. I have worked with you and you are awesome.
Oh, thanks, sir. You're awesome too.
Aww.
Hopefully we'll get to work together again someday soon.
Mm-hmm.
But reach out. Yeah. If we're always hiring and looking for talented software enthusiasts.
Do you have any socials you want to plug, or just everyone should just look up Infuse on LinkedIn and give their resume?
I didn't come prepared. Okay, this is my first podcast. I'm supposed to bring. I don't have any plugs that way, but yeah, Infuse.io is that works.
Is that a website?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think we have a website.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're big time. But yeah, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't do any of the other ones. I think I have a Twitter. I don't know if Infuse has a Twitter, though.
You should just build an AI to be your Twitter.
Yeah.
It can tweet for you.
Yes.
It can be sassy like the Wendy's Twitter bot.
Yeah. I like the Wendy's Twitter bot.
I think everyone likes the Wendy's Twitter bot.
Oh, yeah. I saw their stock shot up. We don't have to go into that.
Stocks.
Yeah.
Crypto. Crypto stocks.
Yeah. But thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Thank you for being on. Really appreciate it. Go Vandals.
Woo.
Thanks for listening to Sarah in Tech. Feel free to email me at sarah@sarahintech.net or follow me on Instagram @sarahintech. Hope you enjoyed listening.